around here. There's a bunch of crooks around here.
You ain't supposed to be in that jail, boy. Get out of there, man.
No, that's a total no, man. VAT come in.
Is my salary going up?
The Bahamian people got to wake up.
This is my 5 cents and I approve this message.
Electric bills will not be exempt from VAT, according to the new VAT bill. Another date set for the constitutional referendum on gender equality. The opposition criticizes delays in the BEC sale process and more BEC disconnections on the way. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and MB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight, consumers could see a slight increase in their electricity bills next year now that the government has confirmed it will place value-added tax on BEC bills. Minister of State for Finance Michael Halkitis defended the Christie administration's decision to make BEC bills VATable, insisting the Bahamas Electricity Corporation would be able to receive VAT credits. Halkitis, who tabled the VAT bill and regulations in the House of Assembly today, also revealed the government has reduced the number of VAT exemptions and outlined how much tax reform would cost taxpayers. Monique Toot reports.
It will cost the government an estimated $3.5 million to implement value-added tax next year. The long-awaited VAT bill and regulations were tabled in the House of Assembly today. Amid fears over rising electricity costs, Minister of State for Finance Michael Halkitis has confirmed that electricity bills will be VATable and suggested consumers could see a slight increase in their BEC bills.
We've decided it's not going to be exempt, and so the supply will be VATable. That does not mean that the price goes up, or that if it does, it goes up by the 7.5%, because they would have an opportunity to get credits for their inputs.
This revelation comes 3 months after BEC Chairman Leslie Miller said he does not support placing VAT on electricity bills and insisted it would be unfair to place the burden of a tax on struggling Bahamians. However, Halkitis told reporters today he doubts BEC customers will see much of an increase.
We don't expect it to go up by the amount of the VAT. As it stands now, it might increase a bit, it might stay the same. Definitely, if they were exempt, then BEC would not have the opportunity to get VAT credits back. And so we think that by bringing it into the net, so to speak, it allows them to get their credits and reduce their costs.
VAT will be introduced at a rate of 7.5% in January 2015. Government has also decided to reduce the number of exemptions. Based on recommendations from New Zealand VAT experts who visited the Bahamas earlier this year, government has completely eliminated the list of exemptions for goods. Meantime, the list of services exempted from VAT is now shorter. Education services and the sale or rental of a dwelling are exempt, along with services rendered by daycare centers, religious institutions, and recognized charities. As for healthcare exemptions, it appears only public healthcare is exempt.
Specifically for public services provided to public patients receiving free care at public facilities, including children of school age or younger, the indigent, aged, government employees, and other persons identified by the Minister of Health.
Halkitis defended government's decision not to exempt food, insisting being exempt is not an advantage. He says the plan is to make those items VATable and work along with the Department of Social Services to provide relief.
If you need to bring some relief to those at the low income levels, there's a mechanism to do that, and we're working along with the Department of Social Service to modernize their relief delivery in the form of a conditional cash transfer so that we can bring relief to those at the lower level.
Government is also reducing customs duty on imported goods. For instance, ketchup, jewelry, cameras, watches, and clocks are now duty-free. Duty on meat, milk and cream, yogurt, cheese and curd, vegetables, coffee, fruits and nuts will decrease from 10% to 5%. Meantime, customs duty on stoves, refrigerators, freezers, and other equipment will drop from 25% to just 5%. Halkitis estimates it will cost government $3.5 million to carry out tax reform.
For the task force, there's going to be a budget for that group, that private sector group, of $150,000. And for the overall tax reform, which includes what we are doing in terms of real property tax, as well as some other refinements to other areas of our tax system, we have, I think it's about $3.5 million in total. And so for education, any efforts, funds that we have to expend in terms of education will come out of that.
Halkitis says debate on the VAT bill will begin in the House of Assembly in 2 or 3 weeks. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Toot.
Also in the House of Assembly this morning, Prime Minister Perry Christie introduced 4 separate bills to amend the Constitution of the Bahamas. Christie said the bills represent the first round of constitutional reform. He also set a new date for the national constitutional referendum to be held later this year. Simone Davis has the story.
Christie said the 4 bills are bound together by a common thread, which is the need to institute full equality between men and women in matters of citizenship, and more broadly to eliminate discrimination in the Bahamas based on gender. He announced that the national constitutional referendum would be held on November 6, 2014.
It is the government's intention, subject to further consultations with the opposition, to have the 4 constitutional bills debated and passed in both houses of Parliament in the shortest possible time, so as to maximize the time available for discussion and dialogue throughout the country in advance of a national constitutional referendum to be held on the 6th of November 2014. Mr. Speaker, members are aware, of course, that under the Constitution, the 4 bills in question must in each instance be approved by at least 3/4 of the members of Assembly, House of Assembly. The bills must then go to the Senate, where they must also be approved by 3/4 of the members of that legislative body. Following passage in the Senate, the bills must be approved by a simple majority of voters in a national referendum. Only after going through the entire process can the Constitution be altered.
The first bill seeks to give a child born outside the Bahamas to a Bahamian mother and non-Bahamian father the same right to a Bahamian citizenship as a child born outside the Bahamas to a Bahamian father and non-Bahamian mother. The second bill seeks to enable a Bahamian woman who marries a foreign man to secure Bahamian citizenship. The third bill seeks to allow an unwed Bahamian father to pass his citizenship to a child born to a foreign woman.
Bill number 3 is of particular interest because it seeks to remediate the one area of the Constitution that discriminates against men. At present, an unwed Bahamian father cannot pass his citizenship to a child born to a foreign woman. This bill seeks to change that. It will give an unwed Bahamian father the same right to pass citizenship to his child that a Bahamian woman has had or has always had under the Constitution in relation to a child born to her out of wedlock. This bill, however, will require proof of paternity by one or other of the methods prescribed by law.
The fourth bill seeks to end discrimination based on sex. He clarified that this bill would not make same-sex marriages lawful, as such unions are already treated as void under the Matrimonial Act. He added that preliminary preparations are already underway for Citizenship Commission.
Before closing, I wish to advise that preliminary preparations are already underway for the Citizenship Commission, recommended by the Constitutional Commission in its report. I expect to be able to announce the members of this commission in the near future. The purpose of this new commission will be to study and definitively address the status of the numerous persons who were born in the Bahamas, albeit to non-Bahamian parents, and who have never known any home other than the Bahamas. As the Constitutional Commission has so sagely warned, we ignore this problem to our peril.
Prime Minister Perry Christie also noted that retired Supreme Court Justice Ruby Nottage has agreed to spearhead the public education campaign. Nottage said that she wants to ensure that no citizen is left confused about the constitutional reform.
We would like to touch and communicate with every citizen so that they are cognizant, understand, and can verbalize what this means to them. This is a major advent for our Bahamas, and every Bahamian should be able to speak about it, not just those in the House of Assembly. So the public education will begin with seminars with some of the members of the House of Assembly, that's for one, and then we'll move through the community. Members of the Commission, the Constitutional Commission, will have public seminars. We'll go through the churches. We'll be invited, I'm sure, onto radio shows, but particularly teaching, discussing, dialoguing. We want to speak, but not just be the spokespersons. We want others to speak with us.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Simone Davis.
Well, those who may feel frustrated by the events that have followed last January's gambling referendum should not be discouraged from voting in this upcoming constitutional referendum, opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis said in the House of Assembly today. Although the majority of voters said no to the regulation of the web shop industry, the government is still planning to table legislation to regulate web shops, a move which has drawn backlash from some who feel their opinion was ignored. Bahamas Christian Council President Ranford Patterson has already said he will not vote in future referenda. But Minnis, who has also criticized the government for going against the results of the gambling referendum, said this time it's different. He said this referendum will count and its results will be binding.
Those persons who might feel some way discomfited by events which have followed recent referendum should not be in any way discouraged. This constitutional referendum, Mr. Speaker, will count. The results of this referendum will be important and binding.
Minnis noted the constitutional bills will require a majority yes in a binding constitutional referendum, and he encourages every Bahamian to educate themselves on the matter and vote.
I therefore urge every Bahamian to play a meaningful role in listening to the parliamentary debate on these bills, reading the bills, attending the educational meetings which will shortly commence, carefully considering the proposals in a nonpartisan and public-spirited manner, and to vote your conscience.
The Free National Movement is slamming the Christie administration for dragging its feet over the restructuring of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. This as the deadline for a decision on BEC continues to be extended by Minister of Works Philip Brave Davis. Our Jasmine Brown has more in this report.
Standing outside BEC headquarters this morning, those FNM officials bashed the government for what they call a lack of transparency surrounding the reformation of BEC.
We intend and have intended at all times to be transparent.
As I presently said, personally, I don't see it doing so before the middle of March, end of March, because it's not a decision that I think we ought to rush to make, because it's not a decision that I think we ought to rush to make. I think we need to bring to bear, because of the magnitude of what the decision is, we need to think hard, long, and intensely on the ultimate goal that we'd like to achieve.
It's currently being looked at, but as I said, there are a lot of other things we're dealing with, but hopefully within the next 2-3 weeks we'll have a decision.
That was Prime Minister Christie and Deputy Prime Minister Davis defending the constant delay of BEC's restructuring on several occasions over the past few months. The project, which was first announced by Prime Minister Christie in August 2013, is around 7 months behind the initially outlined timeline. The government had earlier announced it intended to have new operators launch services by May 2014. Earlier this month, Davis said while government is dealing with other important issues, the overhaul of the energy sector will be advanced in a matter of weeks. When asked why the government has not reached a decision more than 3 months after accounting firm KPMG Bahamas made its recommendations and gave the government an assessment of all bidders, Davis suggested cabinet has had a busy schedule. And that's not sitting well with the F&M. Former Minister of State for the Environment Fenton Nemore says not only does a decision need to be made, there must be more transparency on the matter.
We believe that energy reform should be disclosed prior to the bidding for privatization, because this level of uncertainty creates a situation in which bidders may not give us the best price.
There are 3 companies that remain in the running to become part of the overhaul of BEC. Nemore insists the greatest consideration should be given to Bahamian companies.
Feel that the sale of BEC's power generation should not be offered to one foreign entity, as it is not in the interest of the Bahamian people.
He added that while the F&M supports the restructuring of BEC, it cannot say whether it supports how the government is going about it, as everyone is being left in the dark.
BEC must be reformed. The F&M government previously stated and still of the position that BEC has to be privatized. We were also of the position that existing legislation is inadequate. It's more than 60 years old and has to be reformed. The problem is that it's very complex, and it will affect every agency in this country.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Brown.